Aman Jain in the comments just said that, do you think that youth today in the South Asian community do not prefer to share their emotions and feelings with friends or even parents? That is considered to be a weakness in general. A balance between emotion and success is important. So we did kind of discuss this a little bit earlier on in our session about how sometimes it's perceived as a weakness and ways to overcome that. So if you want to touch base on that again, feel free to do so, Mohini or Mrinal, however you'd like to address that again.
So in my experience, and as well as in the book I wrote, yes, absolutely. South Asian youth do hesitate to discuss their feelings, especially with their elders, even more so than with their closest friends. And I think that is because of things like dismissal and toxic positivity of how they should just deal with it the best way that they can, and waiting until it reaches a crisis point to take it seriously. And I think that one point that I did not bring up is another pattern I'm picking up on is when it comes to the whole not taking it seriously until it becomes severe. I think that since in South Asian countries, going to therapy isn't a norm. People who immigrated here don't seek out any therapy, don't put too much value or thought into processing their emotions when it comes to the culture of stress and having to adjust to acclimating to a new country. And I think that's why they probably don't think it's important for their children either, in the sense that they see themselves as having struggled more or having had it worse, whereas their children are getting the best treatment possible in terms of being their kids and already being citizens here, not having to do things they did.
Yeah, and I would add to what Mrinal was saying, it also has to do with the model minority myth, because that's another thing. Like, we are seen as the people who are like, working professionals, or we are like, all the smart people, right? And so how is that kind of like, it doesn't match up, right? Here we are seen as people, we are professionals, we are doing well in whatever lines that we are going into. And then this is kind of seen as like weakness, like, oh, now they can't even figure out, they're not able to manage their emotions and all that, right? So I think, again, through these kind of forums like we are having right now, where we are bringing awareness about that, it's and normalizing it, that it's okay. Like even strong people can, everybody needs, just the way like a runner or an athlete needs training. And if you see, there are so many people that are behind us, that successful athlete, right? There are trainers, there are nutritionists, there are people who could, like coaches and all that, right? Whereas for all of us, like trying to do the day to day, it's kind of seen as a sign of weakness if we want a help. We have to kind of demystify that again, or like break the shame. So the more normalized we make it, that it's okay to seek for help because you want to do your best. And in order for you to, so if there was a checklist for all college going students, right, that you need to take care of, it's not just your SAT scores or your GPA, emotional resiliency was also important. Think of it like that. So we have to kind of create those things for people so that it becomes like normal. Help seeking attitude becomes like normalized for everyone.
And I will also add that another barrier, which I'm shocked has not come up in this conversation, which I'm sure every single person listening here has heard, is the what will people say? I think that probably all of us heard that growing up a lot, and unconsciously we probably started repeating it when it came to ourselves too.
Definitely. And that shame, or that sense of shame, or that sense of disappointment, or that sense of losing an honor is very present in both, I think, my parents' generations, it's trickled down. It's definitely trickled down. And there needs to be, I think, more of that realization of, wait, why? Who is this for? What am I doing this for? And having that clarity, I think, is one way to address exactly what you brought up, Mrinal. And talking about the model minority myth, I think, especially in the last 2 years when discussions about race in America have been much more in the forefront, I think so many of my peers take the model minority myth that surrounds either South Asians or East Asians and Asians in general, and they take it and run with it. And I think they don't they don't ever want to be out of it because they get a sense of pride and sometimes in some of those stereotypes. And I definitely think in, you know, in the Bay Area where both Satvik and I are from, when a mass influx of all the Asian people to that area were through professional careers, through tech, through specifically tech company jobs, it's like, okay, we are killing it. Like that's kind of like the mindset that a lot of people internalize. And I think breaking away from that is something that needs to be addressed. And I think I don't think a lot of my peers have had the conversation with themselves or with their friends or anybody to address that or talk about that at all. So definitely the model minority myth, definitely that sense of shame and guilt and all that kind of stuff definitely contribute to all of this. And I know we've reached almost our hour mark. I think this was a lovely conversation and I'm glad that we're having it. And just to address some of the things that are in the Q&A box before we go to our final thoughts. I think this is a question for myself and Satvik, I'd say. So how do you manage schoolwork and what you do if it's taking a toll on your mental health? So Satvik, do you have anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm in junior year and we do get a lot of work at my school because some of the class I'm taking are some of the class I'm taking, the workload's like kind of insane. But for me, whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed or anything, it's just it helps to just hop on Zoom and work on your schoolwork with a peer or anyone who you feel comfortable with. Doing it with other people like helps a lot in terms of just it feeling like less work and like outside of just how to do the work in a way that you feel okay with. If you're ever feeling overwhelmed, like most of the time, I would just either go out with my friends, like on a drive or get some food or something, and just really just spend time with people that you feel comfortable with. It really helps in the long run with your own mental health. And I'd say it doesn't really make you forget about the work that you have because I don't think that's like really healthy or just like forgetting about all the work that you have going on. But it's good to take a break and focus on yourself for a little bit. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, entering my final year of university, one thing that I like to do is just physically remove myself from campus. I think for me, that's the biggest thing that I like to do because I'm an RA, so I'm a resident assistant in the dorms. So the place where I work and the place where I live and the place where I, do schoolwork is all the same place. So for me, just to physically get away from that is really important, whether that just be a walk to a park a few blocks away, or whether that be walking into the city or, going out for a drive. For me, that's one way that I really like to escape and just take a step back and just get that perspective. But yeah, I think that's definitely one way that I've coped with it. And I think a lot of the times finding that time for yourself, using methods of keeping track of all your schoolwork, like using things like Google Calendar, using a planner, using an agenda every day. Those are all methods that I use to keep everything in balance.